was known for his extraordinary strength. But more impressive than any kick or punch he threw was his sheer will to do things his way.
He was a visionary.
He was open to different philosophies, different ideas.
He kind of went against the grain.
Bruce Lee, to me, is all about taking something that's coming at you and kind of moving to the side and working with it.
He was the first Asian guy that I knew that either dated or married a white person.
In the 60s, people weren't as tolerant toward other racial groups.
What gave him his strength was not only his belief in his martial arts, but his belief in himself.
He's just as intelligent as the next man, and you really want to take it to, throw some dukes, and he knows how to throw dukes too,
It's Bruce Lee, the individual, on Bruce Lee Lives.
What was so unique about Bruce?
He was truly a revolutionary.
Someone who was so passionate and dedicated. He was so smart. He brought exactly who he was to the situation.
When I hear Bruce Lee, I think badass. He had a lot of wisdom, and he kicked a lot of butt in movies.
I think Bruce is one of a kind. I think he was way ahead of his time.
Really, when I think about Bruce, I think about a guy that was about finding truth and going to the next level in all areas.
He wasn't afraid to be unorthodox. He wasn't afraid to go against the grain.
Bruce Lee was a man, just listening to him speak.
Well, Kung Fu, the best example would be a glass of water. So every Kung Fu man is trying to do that, to be soft like water and flexible and adapt itself to the opponent.
Watching him fight, watching the way he moves.
Of course, I'm a Bruce Lee fan. He paved the way for Asian actors. He's an icon.
Bruce Lee was the individual.
He was the only Asian that people knew. Asian Americans were very proud of him.
First time I saw Bruce Lee, it was like watching the atomic bomb.
Now, Bruce Lee Lives, in the series that celebrates the life and legacy of the greatest martial artist of all time. On this episode, we take on Bruce Lee, the individual.
I must find out the truth.
It's called Being Your Own Man. And for Bruce Lee, the idea of standing tall and not caring what others thought made him so special. Time and time again, he fought back against the normal way of doing things, constantly thinking outside the box.
With anything new, there's obviously going to be some haters, people that are obviously trying to bring you down from what you're doing.
He went against the grain and did whatever he wanted to do. He was a true rebel and a successful one.
Part of what Bruce rebelled against were traditional forms of fighting techniques. For centuries, Asian combat methods were divided up into distinct disciplines: karate, kung fu, Muay Thai, and Taekwondo. Bruce took from each of these styles and incorporated them into Jeet Kune Do.
Back in those times, everyone was real stuck on tradition. If you did karate, you only fought in a certain stance, certain way, and you do certain things. But Bruce looked at it not as a sport, but as like, if I'm fighting for my life.
His approach, allowing himself to be influenced by other masters and other disciplines, I think that was a very modern approach to martial arts.
He tried to say, look, there's merit in all these other sports and styles. He was one of the first people that recognized wrestling as a martial art. That was a revolutionary way of thinking.
He didn't really have anybody to model after. He was the first of his kind to combine all these different styles, and just the things that he came up with is just groundbreaking.
And here was a man that was able to really break boundaries because he knew that the individual has a right to express themselves.
For Bruce, the idea of expressing yourself in an honest manner and following your own path was key.
5 things: genuine, honest, true, sincere, and real. In every note, in every punch.
Bruce Lee felt that truly expressing oneself was the way to personal freedom, and he was interested in doing this in all aspects of his life. In early 60s America, when it was still a crime to be seen in certain places because of the color of your skin, Bruce Lee let his heart lead the way when he married outside his race. He wed Linda Emery in 1964.
I don't know most people know this, but in the 60s, there was still a ban on interracial marriage. So there weren't too many states that practiced, the freedom to marry whoever you wanted.
He did not see any limits in what he wanted to achieve, whether it was marrying an American girl as a Chinese immigrant here in the United States.
He was the first Asian guy that I knew that either dated or married a white person. I think my cousin Paul told me about it, that no, he's married to a white person. I thought, you can do that? Well, how wonderful. You know what I mean? America, you know what I mean? The land of the free. And of course, through my life, I've dated many white girls, so thank you, Bruce.
In the 60s, people weren't as tolerant toward other religions, other racial groups. Bruce Lee went beyond that.
The lack of fear of what others thought and his ability to believe in himself completely allowed Bruce to inspire others to stand strong and push past the walls other people have tried to put around them.
He had a ton of barriers to break down. Coming over those obstacles and setting goals and achieving them has been something that my whole career has been about. Some things take longer than others. Some things I'll break more bones doing and trying, and it's just how bad do you want it? And I feel like that's what he possessed.
It was the things that Bruce had said that gave me confidence that this is my body, this is skateboarding, I'm gonna express myself, I'm gonna work as hard, and this little Asian guy is gonna achieve this much. Surely I can get somewhere with what I've been given.
He's saying you need to go beyond what I'm talking about. You need to find for yourself what truly is the best technique. That's where his genius really lies.
But Bruce's influence doesn't just extend to sports and fighting. Performers of all kind look to him because of the strength of his individuality. The dance group the Jabberwockies have exploded onto the scene. And for them, Bruce Lee is one of the reasons they thrive.
Bruce Lee was an icon, somebody who wasn't afraid to be different. He believed in what he did, and he believed what he did was powerful and was something that was going to impact the world, and it did.
For the Jabberwockies, their dancing is just like Bruce Lee's Jeet Kune Do. It's not one style, but many styles.
If you were to throw the beat on boom, boom, cat, you get boom, boom, cat. Or you get boom, boom, cat. It's just using your body in a different way. So really, our dancing is like fighting. We're just not throwing punches or kicks.
And know for a fact that he's influenced all of us. A lot of people kind of thought of it was weird. These guys dancing in white masks. Why are they doing that? How come they're mixing so many different styles of hip-hop dance? Why are they fusing so much? That's how Bruce Lee was.
He's applying all the movement philosophies to martial arts, but everything he says applies to us as dancers too. Because what we do at the end of the day is just another form of movement.
Just as if training for a fight, the Jabberwockies put in the time working out and preparing for every performance.
Bruce Lee!
Coming up, the Jabberwockies' embrace of the spirit of Bruce Lee seems great in theory, but how will it work when they hit the stage in Las Vegas? But first, Bruce's secret to life is revealed.
His philosophy about adapting to your environment and also possibly having the environment adapt to you.
In becoming the top martial artist of all time and an icon to all, Bruce Lee needed more than just punches and kicks. What he had was a philosophy about fighting and life that allowed him to be both steadfast in his ideals and open to change.
Be formless, shapeless, like water. Now you put water into a cup, it becomes the cup. Put it into a teapot, it becomes the teapot. Now water can flow or creep or drip or crash. Be water, my friend.
The philosophy of being like water, I took that back into bike riding. So the way I utilized it was keep your mind wide open and be able to diversify your riding skills in any different way. And that's why I got it tattooed on me right here. Be like water.
What Bruce Lee taught us was you cannot have restrictions. I think MMA is a physical display of Bruce Lee's philosophies and teachings.
Bruce's philosophies, man, he had a ton of things. The most famous one was the "be like water" quote. And it's really cool because it's true, like water is adaptable. It's the most adaptable thing out there. It's the most powerful force out there.
It's all about flow. It's all about yin and yang. It's all about taking something that's coming at you and kind of moving to the side and working with it.
He was definitely always looking out of the box, and myself as a martial artist and even my coaches, I try to find guys like that who are always going to look out of the box and evolve.
Empty your mind. Be formless, shapeless, like water.
Be water, my friend.
When we talked a lot, it was always about being a good human being or evolved human being. He encouraged people to research it. He wanted you to experiment. He wanted you to create.
Bruce was teaching us to look past the normal conventions of how things are done, to overcome our fear of the new and embrace change.
He was about evolution and about constantly growing.
For many, Bruce Lee's mantra of evolving has been heard, and its power is being used.
It is that idea of evolution, to bring something new to the table, and when you bring something new, you can even bring something even more new. This is my life now. Like I want to follow this path. You know, always evolving and changing, trying to do something different.
One unique part about action sports is the fact that it can evolve so quickly and progress so quickly.
Bruce Lee was always evolving, always changing, always switching up his style, right? When you think you saw the best, he came out with something that was better.
He saw qualities in all these different martial arts that he could apply, you know, and what worked for him. So I applied that in skateboarding. Like, there's so many different things you can skate. It's like, if you just have a real rigid outlook, you're limiting yourself. You're not allowing yourself to just grow and do everything you can.
And I always think of what hasn't been done. And that's what freestyle motocross is all about. That's what people like to see as evolution.
I think constantly improving and constantly evolving, that's freestyle. Freestyle motocross is progression. And it's driven by passion, it's driven by love, it's driven by competition.
In my sport, you know, it's essentially a freestyle sport. There's no rules to how you do a trick. It's entirely up to you.
Some of the best skiers that you see right now are skiers that can ski in every discipline, and it's really important to have fun and kind of always never be just stuck in your ways, you know, always be open to other possibilities and see what's out there.
When your mind is rigid, you're not going to be able to handle every circumstance that comes to you. But if your mind bends and bobs and weaves and rolls with the punches, just adapting to your scenario, man, I just feel like you're going to be more successful in life.
To flow, to be like water means you must adjust to all things, including the environment in which you compete.
With skiing, there's so many different realms you can take it to. I mean, there's half-pipe skiing, there's slope style, there's also powder skiing. And in each one of those separate ones, it can keep evolving and progressing. There's no telling where it can go.
Another sport that shares Bruce Lee's philosophies is called parkour. It's all about adapting to your surroundings. But it has also struggled for acceptance among older, more established sports.
Bruce Lee's ideas of absorb what is useful, reject what is useless, and add what is specifically your own creation and constantly research. You could easily apply that to parkour. You have to be able to adapt yourself to the terrain around you, be it urban, be it rural, wherever.
It's Bruce Lee, the individual. Bruce Lee understood that adapting to your environment or to your opponent was key. Everyone is different, whether it be your fighting style, size, speed, or any other attributes.
Not everyone can fight like Bruce Lee. If Kareem Abdul-Jabbar tried to fight exactly like Bruce Lee, it's not going to work for him because he's way longer, way lankier. He needs to use his tools.
Size-wise, weight-wise, you have to adapt a system for you.
Bruce Lee said, you may be a little bit bigger, fatter, you may be a little bit taller, shorter. Bruce Lee was not a big man, but he can teach students that was tall what worked for them.
For the direct descendants of Bruce Lee's fighting style, the mixed martial artists of today, evolving is the key to winning. Adapt or die is the one truth.
Mixed martial arts is a constant evolution. Every 3 fights, you have a guy who does some new techniques.
And if you don't evolve with it, then you get left behind.
We are always changing as individuals. Everyone's path is different. And that's one thing that Bruce Lee really got into early on. We should not just follow blindly what a master or an instructor or a sifu tells us to do. It's your own individual path.
Adapt what is useful,
reject what is useless,
and add what is specifically your own.
Up next, Bruce Lee's ideals would be put to the test when he would battle his toughest opponent, racism.
He said, man, they're not going to make me put my hands in my sleeve and play the typical with the pigtail Chinese men.
And the Jabberwockies, inspired by Bruce Lee, take Vegas by storm. Bruce Lee was constantly battling, whether fighting on the streets of Hong Kong or inside the ring in America. His quickness and power had him winning nearly all of his fights. But his physical strength would be no match against one opponent, racism. Bruce Lee's own words lay it out.
Under the sky, under the heaven, there is but one family. It just so happens that people are different.
From an early age, Bruce Lee understood bigotry. His mother was both German and Chinese, which was a source of confrontation with schoolmates.
Bruce went to a universal school in Hong Kong where there was a lot of English, and they were all bigger than he was. So he'd been in a few scrapes because Bruce wasn't the type to back down or to keep his mouth shut either.
Took your shoe shine box to get you here for a square off. Now you know I mean business.
And he was educated in things that were Western, and he was educated in things that were Eastern, and I think that's made him unique.
As he grew older, Bruce Lee the fighter realized that some battles would have to be won with his philosophy rather than a punch or a kick. After he moved to the States, and while married to Linda Emery, Bruce was teaching martial arts to all groups. Because of this, he saw racism from fellow Asians.
I'll see what you've done.
Back in the 60s, the response that he was getting initially from the Kung Fu community, for instance, was like, how could you? It was considered taboo. And I love that he was able to really just break through those boundaries.
When he made the move to Hollywood, the Asian stereotype was again a barrier that he set to break.
It bothered him. Like he said, man, they're not going to make me put my hands in my sleeve and play the typical with the pigtail Chinese men. So he didn't want to portray anything that would give the Chinese a bad image.
Moving from bit parts in TV and movies, Bruce Lee soon became the international icon he always knew he would be. And he did it by staying true to his beliefs about people and race.
His whole philosophy at that time was, if he can get the people to appreciate something in the Chinese martial arts, then they can fully understand and appreciate other things in the Chinese culture.
It was the first time that we saw Asian leading men, and kind of changed the whole cultural look of Asians here in America.
Everyone respected Bruce Lee. So he was the ultimate role model for Asian boys like me that wanted to, do something exciting, something new, and be respected by everyone.
No matter what racial group, they seemed to admire him. I mean, every Hispanic I've ever met always seemed to like him. Every African American I've met seemed to accept him.
Bruce Lee transcends race, no question about it. I mean, you gotta love somebody like that.
His ability to become one of the first Asian American stars has a lot to do with the time period in which he came to prominence. The fact that it was a time where people were more open and accepting to other cultures and other races.
Bruce definitely broke down a lot of barriers for minorities. Fortunately for me, I've never had race play any type of weird role in my life negatively, and it's because of guys like Bruce who took care of it early on.
For one thing, he made being Asian very cool. You saw this guy and you were like, wow, I want to be him.
He had characters that he played that were disenfranchised, that felt like they were the outsider. Playing characters that were able to rise above that disenfranchisement, he became a hero.
Bruce Lee's ability to see people, not colors, resonates with the Jabberwockies' own goals.
Just because we're Asian doesn't mean we're not down with hip-hop. Hip-hop is colorblind. And I think that's what Bruce Lee viewed himself. He's just colorblind. He loves all different races, and he just loves.
When we wore the mask, people didn't probably really expect to see Asian guys behind the mask, especially how like we dancing. You know what I'm saying? We fought to become where we're at right now.
The reason why we look up to Bruce Lee, because I mean, this is in the 70s, you know, when there's a lot more ignorant than I would assume that it is nowadays. He broke that barrier for Asian Americans.
With the spirit of Bruce Lee giving them inspiration,
let's be like water, my friends.
The Jabberwockies put it all in action when they take the stage.
Now being on stage. Thank you so much.
Just paying it forward. Bruce Lee started it, we just gotta keep it going. We're just a product of him.
Bruce Lee's power was beyond belief, but it was his strength and his beliefs that caused us to look to him as an inspiration to this day.
In the training room, I always say, oh, flow like water, be like water, surround the storm. You have to really flow.
It's not the outer image, it's more who it is within. And I think he took down a lot of barriers, and you know, that guy's an icon because a lot of people look up to him.
We live Bruce Lee's philosophies constantly, and our actions are a representation of his teachings.
Because he had such a profound philosophy, that is what allows him to still be in people's minds today. We still talk about him.
In the end, he thought out of the box. He questioned it. And I think if you cease to question anything, you cease to grow.
Bruce Lee's ideas still grow in the hearts and minds of a new generation of individuals as his influence continues to flow through us all. And because of this, Bruce Lee lives.